Hello guys. Before we begin, take a moment and comment below what time it is where you're listening from. Tonight, you're stepping into a cozy Christmas evening in Victorian England, where snow settles quietly on cobblestone streets and warm light spills gently from windows into the winter night. You arrive as the day is quietly letting go. The light in the sky has softened into pale shades of grey and blue, fading slowly as though the sun itself is reluctant to leave. The last traces of daylight linger along the rooftops, catching briefly on chimney pots and brickwork before slipping away entirely. Snow rests along the edges of the street, pressed firm where carriage wheels have passed earlier in the day and left untouched in small drifts where no one has walked. The air is cold, but calm. It settles around you without urgency, wrapping gently rather than biting sharply. This is the kind of winter cold that encourages stillness, not haste. You breathe it in slowly, noticing how clean it feels, how it clears the mind as much as the lungs. Tall brick houses line the street in quiet formation, each one rising 2 or 3 stories high, their windows evenly spaced, their doors set back behind a short flight of stone steps. Iron railings edge the small front gardens, their black metal dusted with snow that has gathered in careful lines along every curve and point. Some railings hold evergreen wreaths tied with plain twine, modest and undecorated. Victorian Christmas decorations are rarely extravagant. Greenery alone is enough to signal the season. As you walk, you notice that every house seems to carry its own quiet personality. Some bricks are darker, stained by years of coal smoke and winter rain. Others are lighter, catching what little glow remains in the sky. A few doors are freshly painted, while others bear the marks of decades of use, their wood worn smooth where countless hands have knocked. Gas lamps flicker to life along the street, one after another, as though responding to an unspoken signal that the evening has truly begun. Their light is warm and amber-coloured, never harsh. Each lamp casts a soft circle onto the snow below, creating pockets of glow that break up the growing darkness. Shadows stretch and soften, blending gently into one another. These lamps are a relatively recent addition to Victorian life, and yet already they feel indispensable. Before their arrival, evenings were darker and less predictable. Now, the lamps provide reassurance, guiding people home and lending the streets a quiet dignity after sunset. You slow your pace without thinking. There is no need to hurry here. In Victorian England, the evening is a time set apart from the day. Work has ended. Shops have drawn their shutters, closed. The rhythm of the world shifts from productivity to rest. You pass a small storefront at the corner of the street, its windows dark now, shelves barely visible behind drawn curtains. Earlier in the day, it would have been busy with customers preparing for Christmas, purchasing candles, flour, dried fruit, or a small gift if they could afford it. Now it sleeps, waiting for morning. Most windows along the street glow softly from within. Lace curtains hang carefully, filtering the lamplight so that it spills outward in a gentle haze. You catch brief glimpses of movement behind the glass. A woman bends to adjust a chair by the fire. A child presses close to the window, watching snow fall. A man removes his coat and hangs it carefully, shaking off the cold before stepping fully inside. These moments are fleeting, never intrusive. Privacy is valued here, and curtains serve as both a boundary and a comfort. What happens inside each home belongs to those within. and that sense of separation feels respectful rather than isolating. Horses stand quietly farther down the street, their heads lowered, breath rising in slow clouds as they wait to be led back to stables for the night. The sound of hooves has faded now, replaced by a deeper quiet. Occasionally, footsteps echo briefly against the stone before disappearing again. Somewhere nearby, a door closes softly, followed by the faint slide of a bolt being secured for the night. Christmas is close enough to be felt in the air, though not announced loudly. In Victorian England, Christmas is a season shaped by restraint and meaning rather than spectacle. Decorations are purposeful, meals are planned carefully, nothing is wasted. For many families, winter is a time of careful balance, ensuring warmth and food last through long nights and shorter days. The street smells faintly of coal smoke and pine. Chimneys send thin streams of smoke upward, rising straight before dispersing into the cold sky. Fires burn steadily indoors, not only for comfort but for survival. Coal is precious. Wood is rationed. Fires are tended with care, damped down at night to last until morning. You notice how people dress as they pass you. Long wool coats buttoned high at the neck, scarves wrapped close against the cold, gloves mended repeatedly, their seams showing careful hand stitching. Clothing here is meant to endure. Fashion exists, but practicality always leads. Even on Christmas Eve, warmth comes first. Your boots press softly into the snow as you walk, the sound muted, almost absorbed entirely by the ground beneath you. Snow quiets everything. It softens the edges of the world, dulling sharp noises and encouraging calm. Conversations lower without effort, movements slow naturally. The city itself seems to breathe more gently under its white covering. Victorian neighbourhoods are designed for walking. Streets are narrow. Homes are close together. Community is built into the architecture. Neighbours recognise one another, not through constant conversation, but through familiarity. A nod here, a quiet greeting there, presence without intrusion. You pass a lamplighter finishing his work for the evening. His ladder rests against a wall now, no longer needed until morning. The lamps will burn steadily through the night, their glow unchanging, a small promise of continuity in the darkness. Progress in this era often arrives quietly, woven into daily life rather than announced. You pause for a moment and look down the length of the street. From this angle, it seems to stretch endlessly, repeating patterns of light and shadow fading into the distance. There is comfort in its predictability. Nothing here surprises you. Nothing rushes forward. The night unfolds exactly as it has countless times before, and will again. Christmas in Victorian England is deeply tied to the idea of home. Public celebrations exist, church services, charitable events, but the heart of the season lives behind closed doors. It lives in warm kitchens, in parlours lit by candlelight, in families gathered close against the cold. This street reflects that truth perfectly. You continue walking, passing a small group of children being ushered indoors by a bundled adult. Their voices rise briefly, filled with excitement and anticipation, before the door closes behind them, sealing warmth inside. Somewhere nearby, a piano plays softly, a simple melody drifting into the night before stopping altogether. Music here is intimate, shared within homes rather than broadcast outward. Like light, it comes in gentle fragments, enough to be noticed but never overwhelming. The cold air fills your lungs slowly. It feels bracing, steady, grounding. In this moment, there's nothing required of you. No tasks await. No expectations press upon you. You exist entirely within this evening, moving at its pace, shaped by its calm. This is how nights begin in Victorian England. Not with spectacle, but with certainty. Lamps glow, fires burn, doors close softly. Families settle into familiar rhythms that have carried them through countless winters before. Ahead, one house glows, a little brighter than the rest. Light spills warmly through its windows, steady and inviting. Inside, a fire crackles, sending warmth into every corner of the room. The promise of comfort waits just beyond the door. You turn toward it, footsteps slowing even more, as though reluctant to leave the quiet of the street behind. Snow continues to fall lightly now, barely visible against the darkening sky. Each flake drifts without urgency, finding its place. As you approach the door, the cold loosens its hold just a little. Warmth seems to reach for you from inside, quiet and patient. And with that gentle transition, the evening truly begins. Now you're stepping inside the warmth of a family home. You step inside and the cold releases you. The door closes gently behind you, shutting out the quiet street and the winter air in one soft motion. Almost immediately, warmth begins to settle around you, slow and steady, seeping into your coat, your hands, your face. It is not the sudden heat of modern homes, but something gentler, earned over time. The warmth of a carefully tended fire, the warmth of a house that understands winter. You pause just inside the narrow entryway, allowing yourself to adjust. Victorian homes are built with intention, every space serving a purpose. The entry is modest, meant to keep the cold from reaching farther inside. Your boots rest on a small mat, damp with melting snow. Coats hang from sturdy hooks along the wall, wool heavy and dark, each one shaped by years of wear. The air smells faintly of coal smoke, beeswax and pine. It is a comforting mixture, familiar and grounding. Somewhere deeper in the house, the fire crackles softly, its sound steady and reassuring, like a quiet heartbeat. You move forward, passing into the main sitting room, often called the parlour. This is the heart of the home, especially in winter. The room is modest in size, but carefully arranged. Furniture is positioned close together, not for decoration, but for warmth and conversation. Nothing here feels excessive. Everything has a reason for being. The fire burns low in the hearth, contained behind a simple iron grate. Logs and coal glow beneath a soft layer of ash, releasing heat gradually rather than all at once. The fire is never allowed to roar unnecessarily. Fuel is precious, and the goal is endurance, not spectacle. Someone has clearly tended it with care, ensuring it will last through the evening and well into the night. You notice how the furniture is placed deliberately close to the hearth. Chairs are angled inward, encouraging people to sit together rather than apart. A small rug lies in front of the fire, its colours muted but warm, worn thin by years of use. This rug has felt countless winter evenings beneath tired feet. The walls are lined with simple decorations. A framed print hangs above a side table, its image softened by age. A small shelf holds a few well-used books, their spines cracked and pages yellowed. Books are valued here, not as ornaments, but as companions. Reading aloud in the evening is common, especially during long winter nights. Candles provide additional light, placed carefully around the room. Their flames flicker gently, casting moving shadows across the walls and ceiling. Candlelight softens everything it touches, Faces appear kinder. Corners blur. The world feels smaller, more contained, easier to rest within. Victorian homes rely heavily on layered lighting. Gas lamps may illuminate the streets outside, but inside, candles remain essential. They are used thoughtfully, never wasted. Each one is placed where it will do the most good, illuminating hands at work, pages being read, or faces in quiet conversation. You remove your coat and set it aside, feeling the weight lift from your shoulders. The simple act of shedding outer layers signals safety. Indoors, the world slows. The urgency of the cold no longer presses against you. The family who lives here moves about quietly, each person following familiar routines. These routines are not rushed. They are practiced, comforting, passed down over years. A kettle warms near the fire. A chair is adjusted slightly closer to the hearth. A small table is cleared in preparation for the evening. Christmas Eve holds a particular significance in Victorian England. It is not a night of excess, but of anticipation. Tomorrow brings celebration, but tonight is about preparation and reflection. The home reflects this balance perfectly. Everything feels ready, yet unhurried. You notice the subtle signs of the season. A small evergreen branch rests along the mantel, its needles releasing a faint scent when warmed by the fire. A simple ribbon ties it in place. There are no glittering ornaments, no bright colours demanding attention. The greenery alone is enough. Victorian Christmas traditions place great importance on nature and symbolism. Evergreens represent endurance and hope through winter. Candles symbolise light returning to the darkest time of year. These meanings are understood instinctively, woven into daily life rather than explained aloud. The floorboards creak softly beneath your steps as you move farther into the room. The sound is familiar, expected. Old houses speak quietly in this way, responding to movement with gentle acknowledgement. Nothing here feels fragile or temporary. Everything has been used, repaired, and used again. You take a seat near the fire, feeling the warmth reach your legs and hands. The chair is firm but comfortable, shaped by time rather than design trends. Upholstery is practical, chosen for durability rather than appearance. Still, it holds warmth well, inviting you to settle in. As you sit, your attention drifts to the small details that define Victorian domestic life. A sewing basket rests beside one chair, containing neatly folded fabric and a pair of scissors dulled from use. Sewing is constant work, mending garments rather than replacing them. Winter clothing must last, and careful hands ensure it does. On a nearby table rests a tray with simple cups and a teapot, steam rising faintly from its spout. Tea is not merely a beverage here. It is a ritual, a pause, a way of marking time. In winter evenings especially, tea offers warmth from within, complementing the fire's steady heat. The family gathers gradually, not all at once. One person enters the room, then another. Each settles into place without ceremony. There is no need for announcements. Presence is enough. Conversation, when it comes, is gentle and unforced. Victorian family life places strong emphasis on togetherness, particularly during winter. Long nights encourage shared spaces. Private rooms exist, but they are colder, less inviting. The parlour becomes the centre of gravity, drawing everyone inward. You listen as soft voices exchange small observations. The weather, the day's work, preparations for tomorrow. Nothing urgent, nothing heavy. Even concerns are spoken quietly, tempered by the warmth of the room. The fire crackles softly, shifting as a log settles. Someone adjusts it carefully, using a poker to reposition embers rather than stirring them too much. Managing a fire is a learned skill, passed down through experience. Too much air wastes fuel. Too little risks extinguishing the flame. Balance is everything. As the evening deepens, the outside world feels increasingly distant. The street you walked moments ago now exists only as memory. Inside, time thickens. Minutes stretch. The ticking of a clock becomes noticeable, marking the passage of the evening with steady precision. Clocks are important in Victorian homes, symbols of order and routine. Even during moments of rest, time is acknowledged. It moves forward calmly, predictably, without haste. The warmth of the fire relaxes your body further. Muscles loosen, breathing slows. The house seems to encourage rest simply by existing as it does. Thick walls hold in heat. Curtains drawn over windows keep out drafts and darkness alike. Victorian curtains are heavy, often layered, serving both practical and aesthetic purposes. They insulate against cold while creating a sense of enclosure. With them drawn, the room feels like a small, safe world unto itself. The family's movements grow fewer as the evening progresses. Someone pours tea. Someone adjusts a candle. Someone settles deeper into their chair. These actions are unremarkable, yet deeply comforting in their repetition. This is the rhythm of winter evenings in Victorian England. Not entertainment in the modern sense, but presence, togetherness, shared quiet. You become aware of how little stimulation surrounds you. No sudden noises, no bright lights, no demands for attention. The environment itself invites the mind to wander gently, to drift without effort. Education in this era often happens informally, through conversation and observation. Children learn by watching adults perform daily tasks. History is passed down through stories, through customs, through the way things are done, rather than written instruction. Christmas, especially, carries layers of meaning shaped by both tradition and social reform. The Victorian era plays a significant role in shaping many modern Christmas customs, family gatherings, charitable giving, emphasis on home life. This evening reflects that cultural shift quietly, without commentary. As the fire continues to glow, the room feels increasingly timeless. It could be tonight. It could be 100 years ago. The fundamentals remain the same: warmth, shelter, human presence. Outside, snow continues to fall, though you barely notice now. Inside, the world narrows to the steady glow of firelight and the quiet comfort of shared space. You lean back slightly, feeling the chair support you fully. The house holds you in the same way, enclosing without confining. Winter remains beyond the walls, but it no longer feels threatening. This is what stepping inside means here. Not simply crossing a threshold, but entering a rhythm. Leaving behind the cold not only of the air, but of effort itself. The evening stretches ahead, unhurried, ready to unfold one small moment at a time. And as the fire burns steadily, the house settles into its quiet. You know that this warmth will carry you gently through the night. Now we're preparing the Victorian Christmas supper. You remain near the warmth of the fire as the household begins to shift gently into motion. There is no announcement that supper is being prepared. No sudden change in energy. Instead, the evening transitions naturally as though guided by an invisible rhythm everyone understands. Chairs are moved slightly. Sleeves are rolled just a bit. The quiet comfort of rest gives way to the equally familiar comfort of purposeful activity. In a Victorian home, preparing supper is not a single task, but a series of small, practiced movements carried out with care. Nothing here is rushed. Christmas Eve supper, especially, carries significance, not because it is extravagant, but because it is shared. You move toward the kitchen, leaving the steady glow of the fire behind, though its warmth still reaches you through open doorways. The kitchen is modest, functional, and well used. Every surface tells a story of repetition. Wooden countertops bear faint knife marks from years of preparation. Copper pots hang from hooks, their surfaces dulled but clean. Shelves hold carefully arranged jars and tins, each labelled in neat handwriting. The air here smells different from the sitting room. It carries traces of bread, herbs, and something richer simmering slowly. Heat radiates from the stove, where coal burns steadily beneath iron grates. Cooking in Victorian England requires patience and attention. Temperature is controlled not by dials, but by instinct and experience. Christmas supper varies greatly depending on a family's means, but even modest households make an effort to mark the occasion. For many, this meal represents comfort more than abundance. Ingredients are chosen carefully, saved for weeks, sometimes months, to be used on this night. You observe as vegetables are washed and prepared. Potatoes, a staple of Victorian diets, are peeled carefully, their skins set aside to be reused where possible. Root vegetables are common in winter: carrots, turnips, onions, foods that store well and provide warmth and sustenance. Their presence reflects both practicality and tradition. A loaf of bread rests nearby, baked earlier in the day. Bread is central to nearly every meal, and Christmas Eve is no exception. It is sliced thoughtfully, each piece intended to be enough, but not wasteful. Waste, especially in winter, is avoided whenever possible. Meat, if included, is treated with particular care. For some families, it may be a small joint of beef or mutton, purchased specially for the holiday. For others, it may be poultry or none at all. Victorian Christmas is not defined by a single dish, but by intention. What matters is that the meal feels different from ordinary days. You notice the quiet cooperation in the kitchen. Tasks are shared without instruction. One person stirs a pot slowly, ensuring nothing sticks or burns. Another measures out ingredients for a simple pudding or pie. Hands move confidently, guided by habit rather than recipe books. Seasonings are modest but meaningful. Salt, pepper, dried herbs. Spices are precious and used sparingly. Nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, often reserved for special occasions like Christmas. Their scent carries warmth, reminding you how closely flavour and memory are tied. Victorian Christmas puddings, when present, are rich with symbolism. Made weeks in advance, they contain dried fruits, sweet, and spices, each ingredient representing prosperity and continuity. Families often gather to stir the pudding together earlier in the season, each person making a silent wish. Even if the pudding is small, the tradition remains. As food cooks, you become aware of how much of Victorian life revolves around preparation. Nothing appears suddenly. Everything is the result of earlier effort, planning, saving, waiting. The supper you will soon eat reflects not only tonight's work, but weeks of careful thought. The sounds of cooking are soft and steady. The scrape of a spoon against a pot, the gentle bubbling of liquid, the faint crackle of coal beneath the stove. These sounds blend together, creating a rhythm that feels grounding rather than distracting. You move slightly aside as dishes are arranged on a table. Plates are simple, often mismatched, but clean and well cared for. Cutlery is polished, though worn smooth from years of use. Napkins are folded neatly, sometimes made from cloth, saved specifically for special occasions. Christmas Eve meals are often lighter than Christmas Day feasts. Tomorrow holds celebration. Tonight is about comfort and anticipation. The food reflects that balance, nourishing, warming, but not indulgent. As you wait, your thoughts drift to the broader context of Victorian food culture. Industrialization has changed access to ingredients, especially in cities, but many families still rely heavily on seasonal foods. Winter limits options. Preservation methods, salting, drying, pickling, are essential skills. Cooking is labor-intensive, especially for women who bear most responsibility for household meals. Yet there is pride in this work, particularly on Christmas Eve. Providing warmth and nourishment is seen as an expression of care and duty. The final dishes are brought together gradually. Steam rises softly, carrying familiar scents into the surrounding rooms. The fire in the sitting room is adjusted slightly, ensuring it will burn steadily during the meal. Everything is coordinated quietly, without spoken instruction. You notice how the household's energy shifts again as supper nears. Movement slows. Voices soften. There is a sense of readiness, not excitement, but contentment. The work has been done. What remains is to share. The family gathers at the table, taking their places without ceremony. There is no rush to begin. A moment of quiet settles naturally, acknowledging both the food and the occasion. In many Victorian homes, this pause reflects gratitude, sometimes spoken, sometimes simply felt. You take your seat among them, the warmth of the room surrounding you once more. The food before you is simple, but thoughtfully prepared. Each dish carries the quiet effort of the evening, the weight of tradition, and the promise of comfort. As you eat, the outside world fades further away. Snow continues to fall beyond the walls, but here, inside, winter feels manageable. The meal nourishes not only the body, but the sense of belonging that defines this time of year. Conversation during supper is gentle. Topics are familiar. Plans for tomorrow. Memories of past Christmases. Observations about the weather. Nothing urgent. Nothing heavy. The food encourages calm, steady eating, rather than haste. In Victorian England, meals are moments of connection, especially in winter. They provide structure to the long evenings and reassurance against the cold. Christmas Eve supper, in particular, anchors the night, offering warmth before the quiet hours ahead. As the final bites are taken, plates are cleared carefully. Leftovers, if any, are set aside thoughtfully. Nothing is discarded without reason. The table is wiped clean, ready for whatever tomorrow may bring. You feel the gentle fullness that follows a warm meal, the kind that relaxes the body and slows the mind. The fire crackles softly in the next room, waiting to welcome everyone back. The household begins to transition once more, leaving the kitchen behind and returning to the sitting room. Supper has been prepared, shared, and concluded exactly as it has been many times before. The night continues, unhurried, carrying you deeper into the calm of a Victorian Christmas evening. Now, you return to the parlour slowly, carrying with you the quiet fullness that follows a warm meal. The room welcomes you back with familiar calm. The fire still burns steadily in the hearth, its glow softer now, no longer the focus of attention, but a constant presence. Chairs are drawn closer together once again, angled toward the warmth and toward one another. The evening has shifted from preparation to rest, from movement to stillness. The parlour after dinner is different from earlier in the evening. There's a sense of ease now, as though the house itself has relaxed. The work of the day is done. Supper has been shared. What remains is simply time. You take your seat, feeling the chair support you fully. The warmth of the fire reaches your hands and legs, settling into you gradually. Candlelight flickers gently around the room, reflected faintly in polished wood and glass. Shadows move slowly across the walls, never sharp, never demanding attention. In Victorian homes, the parlour serves many purposes. It is a place for conversation, for reading, for quiet entertainment. On Christmas Eve, it becomes the space of reflection and togetherness. There is no need for constant activity. Presence alone is enough. The family gathers naturally, each person finding their familiar place. Someone adjusts a cushion. Someone draws a shawl closer around their shoulders. These small movements are unremarkable, yet deeply comforting. They speak of familiarity, of habits shaped over many winters. Conversation resumes softly, but it is unforced. There are pauses, and no one feels the need to fill them. Silence here is not awkward, it is restful. Victorian life, especially in the evening, allows for quiet in a way modern life often does not. You notice how the sounds of the house have changed. The kitchen is quiet now, its work complete. The street outside has faded into near silence. What remains are the subtle sounds within the room, the low murmur of voices, the occasional shift of a chair, the steady crackle of the fire. A book is picked up from the shelf, its pages worn thin from years of use. Reading aloud is a common evening activity, especially during winter. It brings people together without requiring conversation. Stories educate, entertain, and soothe all at once. The book may be a novel, a collection of essays, or even a newspaper read slowly, selectively. In Victorian England, printed material is becoming more accessible, and reading is both a pastime and a means of staying connected to the wider world. Still, on Christmas Eve, choices tend toward gentler content. You listen as words are spoken slowly, carefully. The reader's voice is calm, steady, unhurried. There is no performance here, only sharing. Listeners lean back, allowing the story to wash over them without effort. As the reading continues, you become aware of how naturally learning occurs in moments like this. History, morals, and social values are absorbed quietly, without instruction. Victorian education extends beyond schools, woven into domestic life through stories and conversation. When the reading ends, the book is closed without ceremony. No applause follows. The moment simply passes, making room for the next quiet activity. Someone reaches for a small handcraft, knitting, sewing, or mending. These tasks are common in the evening, especially during winter. Hands move gently, guided by habit rather than focus. The work is familiar enough to be calming rather than demanding. You observe the way these tasks ground the evening. They create rhythm without urgency. Stitches are made slowly. Fabric is folded neatly. Each movement serves a purpose, but the purpose is not speed. It is care. The fire shifts softly as a log settles. Someone rises briefly to adjust it, ensuring it continues to burn evenly. Fire management is constant but unobtrusive. It requires attention, yet it blends seamlessly into the flow of the evening. Victorian parlours are designed for warmth and closeness. Furniture is arranged inward, encouraging shared space. Walls are thick, curtains are heavy. The room feels contained, insulated not only from the cold, but from the demands of the outside world. You notice the clock ticking quietly on the mantel. Time moves steadily here, measured but unpressured. Even as minutes pass, there is no sense of rushing toward anything. Christmas morning will come when it comes. Tonight belongs to rest. Candles are replaced carefully as needed. Wick trimmers are used to keep flames steady and clean. Light is maintained thoughtfully, never wasted. These small acts reflect a broader Victorian value: careful stewardship of resources, especially during winter. As the evening deepens, voices grow softer, conversation becomes more reflective. Memories of past Christmases surface gently, shared without dramatics. These stories are familiar, told many times before, yet comforting in their repetition. You sense how traditions form not through grand gestures, but through these repeated moments. Sitting together, sharing warmth, remembering. These simple acts define Christmas more than any decoration ever could. Children, if present, grow quieter now. Excitement gives way to drowsiness. The long day, the warm meal, the steady fire all work together to ease them toward rest. Adults notice this without comment, adjusting the evening's pace naturally. Outside, the night deepens further. Snow continues to fall, though unseen. Inside, the world narrows even more, focusing attention inward. The parlour becomes a small universe, defined by light, warmth, and human presence. Victorian society places great emphasis on moral character and domestic harmony. The home is viewed as a refuge, a place where values are nurtured and reinforced. Evenings like this embody that belief quietly, without instruction. You find your thoughts drifting gently, not toward worries or plans, but toward simple observations. The way firelight dances across the ceiling, the softness of the chair beneath you, the steady rhythm of breathing around the room. There is no expectation that you remain alert. The evening allows for drifting attention, for moments where the mind wanders and returns without effort. Rest is not something earned here. It is something permitted. The parlour grows warmer still as the fire reaches a steady, enduring burn. The house seems to settle around it, responding to the heat and quiet in equal measure. Walls hold warmth. Floors radiate comfort. As the clock marks another hour, someone remarks softly on the time. Not as a warning, but as an observation. The night is moving forward, gently guiding everyone toward rest. One by one, small actions signal the approach of bedtime. A book is returned to the shelf. Sewing is folded away. Candles are checked. None of this is rushed. The transition is gradual, like dusk giving way to night. You remain seated, content to observe, to exist within the moment. The parlour after dinner is not about doing. It is about being together, being warm, being still. This is how Victorian evenings end, not abruptly, but softly, with shared space, familiar routines, and the quiet reassurance that tomorrow will come in its own time. As the fire continues to glow and the room settles into deeper calm, the night opens gently before you, inviting rest without demand. And in this quiet parlour, by firelight and shadow, the Christmas evening continues to unfold, slow and steady, carrying you closer to sleep. Now let's start Christmas traditions by firelight. You remain seated near the fire as the evening settles even further into itself. The parlour feels smaller now, not because the walls have moved, but because attention has turned inward. Candlelight glows steadily, softened by the warmth of the room. Shadows rest rather than dance. The fire burns with quiet confidence, no longer needing adjustment, content to simply exist. This is the moment when Christmas traditions begin to surface. Not loudly, not all at once, but gently, like memories rising on their own. Victorian Christmas traditions are rooted deeply in the home. They are shaped less by spectacle and more by repetition, by the comfort of doing what has always been done. Many of the customs you recognize today take clearer form during this era, not because they are new, but because they are being gathered, refined, and cherished. You notice a small book brought closer to the fire. Its cover is worn, its pages softened by years of handling. Inside are carols and verses, familiar to everyone in the room. Singing is not a performance here. It is shared, unpolished, and optional. No one insists. Participation is natural, rising when it wishes. A voice begins quietly, testing the air. Another joins, then another. The sound is gentle, imperfect, human. Carols in Victorian homes are meant to be comforting rather than impressive. The melodies are familiar enough that no one strains to remember them. Words flow slowly, paced to the warmth of the room. Carols are deeply symbolic in Victorian England. They reflect a renewed emphasis on Christmas as a family-centered holiday, one focused on togetherness, charity, and reflection. Many carols emphasize peace, light, and hope, ideas especially meaningful during long winter nights. As the final notes fade, no one rushes to speak. Silence follows naturally, carrying the warmth of the sound rather than replacing it. The fire responds with a soft shift, embers settling gently. You become aware of how traditions function here. They do not interrupt the evening. They blend into it. Singing gives way to quiet. Quiet gives way to memory. Someone speaks softly of Christmases past. These stories are not dramatic. They are small recollections. A particularly cold winter. A candle that burned too quickly. A pudding that did not turn out as planned. The details are simple, but they carry meaning precisely because they are ordinary. Victorian families place great importance on memory and continuity. Storytelling preserves family identity. It reminds each person that they belong to something that existed before them and will continue after them. Christmas provides a natural moment for this reflection. As stories are shared, you sense how time feels different here. Past and present sit side by side without conflict. Memories are not relived with intensity, but with calm acceptance. The firelight encourages this mood. It softens edges, blurs distinctions, and invites contemplation. Faces appear warmer, gentler. Even lines of age seem less defined under its glow. You notice small seasonal objects placed around the room. A bowl of apples and nuts rests on a side table. These are common Christmas treats in Victorian homes, affordable and symbolic. Apples represent abundance. Nuts require effort to open, encouraging patience and shared activity. Someone cracks a nut carefully, the sound brief and muted. Pieces are shared without comment. These small gestures carry quiet generosity, reinforcing the spirit of the season without ceremony. Victorian Christmas emphasizes moral reflection as much as celebration. The season is associated with kindness, charity, and care for others. This influence is shaped strongly by literature of the time, especially works that highlight compassion and social responsibility. You may notice a subtle seriousness beneath the warmth of the evening. It is not sadness, but awareness. Winter reminds people of hardship, of those less fortunate, of the importance of community. Christmas traditions reflect this awareness gently, without heaviness. A mention is made of church services planned for the following day. Attendance is common, though not always enthusiastic. For many, church provides structure and familiarity rather than excitement. Christmas services emphasize peace and renewal, reinforcing themes already present in the home. Candles are checked once more, wicks trimmed carefully. Light is maintained thoughtfully. The act itself is a small ritual, repeated nightly, but carrying extra meaning on Christmas Eve. Light is precious during winter, both literally and symbolically. You reflect on how candlelight shapes the entire experience. It moves slowly. It does not glare. It encourages rest rather than alertness. In Victorian homes, this lighting naturally supports the body's rhythms, signaling that night has arrived and sleep will come. The room grows quieter again, not because traditions have ended, but because they have done their work. Togetherness has been affirmed. Memory has been honored. Nothing more needs to be added. Children, if present, grow noticeably calmer now. The excitement of Christmas morning still exists, but it has softened under the weight of warmth and routine. Adults notice this quietly, offering gentle reassurances rather than stimulation. You observe how bedtime approaches not as an event, but as a gradual understanding. The body grows heavy, the mind drifts more easily. The fire's steady presence signals safety, making rest possible. Victorian homes often follow consistent evening routines, especially during winter. Regularity provides comfort in a world that can be unpredictable. Christmas does not disrupt this rhythm, it deepens it. Someone folds the songbook and returns it to its place. No one remarks on the action. The tradition concludes without needing acknowledgement. Its purpose has already been fulfilled. You sense a quiet satisfaction in the room, not happiness in the modern, energetic sense, but contentment, the kind that arises from warmth, familiarity, and shared time. Outside, snow continues to fall, though the sound is unheard. Inside, the firelight holds steady, maintaining a small pocket of brightness against the dark. As the evening continues, conversation becomes less frequent. Long pauses stretch comfortably between words. No one feels compelled to fill them. The silence itself feels companionable. Victorian Christmas traditions are not about entertainment. They are about reassurance, about repeating what has worked before, about reminding everyone present that they are not alone in the winter. You feel this reassurance settle into you as well. The room seems to breathe evenly. The fire's glow remains constant. Nothing demands your attention. Time passes gently, marked only by the quiet ticking of the clock and the slow burn of candles. Each moment slips into the next without resistance. Eventually, the traditions give way entirely to stillness, not because they have been exhausted, but because they have completed their purpose. The evening no longer needs structure. It simply exists. You remain seated, enveloped by warmth and calm. Christmas Eve unfolds exactly as it should, without rush, without excess, without strain. And in this quiet space, by firelight and memory, the season's meaning lingers softly, carrying you closer to rest with each passing moment. Now, a quiet walk through the winter night. You rise slowly, feeling the warmth of the room linger on you even as you prepare to step back into the night. There is no urgency in this movement. The decision to step outside comes gently, as though the evening itself has suggested it. Coats are gathered once more, scarves wrapped carefully, boots pulled on with practiced ease. The fire remains behind you, steady and patient, waiting for your return. When the door opens, the night greets you softly. Cold air slips inside for a brief moment, cool and clean, before the door closes again. Outside, the street has changed since you last walked it. Snow has continued to fall, smoothing away earlier footprints and softening the edges of everything it touches. The world feels quieter now, as though it has settled into deeper rest. You step forward, your breath visible in the air, rising and fading slowly. The snow beneath your boots compresses gently, producing a muted sound that seems almost absorbed by the night itself. Each step feels deliberate, unhurried. Gas lamps still burn along the street, their glow warmer against the deepening darkness. The light reflects off the snow, creating a gentle brightness that makes the night feel less empty and more held. Shadows stretch farther now, blending seamlessly into one another. The houses stand quietly, their windows mostly dark. Families have settled indoors, fires banked, candles extinguished, one by one. A few windows still glow faintly, suggesting late conversation or the careful preparations of those lingering over Christmas Eve traditions. Victorian streets at night are not empty, but they are subdued. Movement is minimal. Sound carries farther. A distant door closing echoes briefly, then disappears. Somewhere, a horse shifts in its stall, the sound barely perceptible. You walk slowly, allowing the night to reveal itself without effort. Snow rests on rooftops and railings, thick enough now to smooth sharp lines into gentle curves. Trees stand bare and still, their branches etched lightly against the dark sky. The air feels heavier than before, quieter. Night has fully arrived. In Victorian England, nighttime is respected. Without electric light, darkness shapes behaviour. People return home early. Streets empty naturally. The world contracts inward, encouraging rest and reflection. You feel this contraction now. The night does not invite exploration or excitement. It invites stillness. As you walk, your thoughts drift gently toward the rhythms of life in this era. Winter nights are long, often stretching 14 or 15 hours. Without artificial distractions, people become attuned to natural cycles. Sleep arrives earlier, mornings begin later. This walk, brief and quiet, serves as a transition, a way of acknowledging the night rather than avoiding it. Stepping outside reinforces the contrast between cold and warmth, darkness and light. You pass a small square where snow has gathered undisturbed. Footprints are rare now, preserved like impressions in stone. A bench sits beneath a thin layer of white, unused and patient. The silence here is deep, but not unsettling. It feels intentional, as though the world has agreed collectively to rest. Even the air seems still, carrying no urgency. You pause for a moment, looking up. The sky is dark, but not empty. Clouds move slowly overhead, their presence suggested, rather than defined. Stars, a few, softened by cloud cover and city glow. Yet their faintness adds to the sense of enclosure rather than absence. Victorian nights often encourage contemplation. Without constant stimulation, the mind turns inward naturally. Thoughts slow, worries lose their sharpness. The present moment stretches gently. You continue walking, noticing how the cold sharpens your awareness without overwhelming it. The scent of snow, faint and clean, mixes with distant traces of coal smoke. Each breath feels grounding. Somewhere nearby, church bells toll softly, marking the hour. The sound carries far in the still air, lingering briefly before fading. Time passes quietly, acknowledged without pressure. Christmas Eve night holds special meaning in Victorian culture. It represents a threshold, not only between days, but between anticipation and fulfillment. Tomorrow brings celebration, but tonight belongs to quiet. You sense this balance everywhere. The night does not feel empty. It feels expectant, yet calm. As you walk, you become aware of how streets are shaped by community. Homes face one another. Distances are short. Even in silence, there is a sense of shared presence, of many lives resting side by side. The cold deepens slightly, encouraging you to turn back. This walk was never meant to be long. It is enough to feel the night, to acknowledge winter before returning to warmth. You retrace your steps, noticing how quickly familiarity returns. The same lamplight, the same snow-covered railings, the same quiet assurance that nothing unexpected waits ahead. The house you left glows faintly now, its light visible even from a distance. It stands as a small beacon against the dark, not demanding attention, simply offering it. As you approach, you feel anticipation not for activity, but for stillness, for the return to warmth, for the continuation of calm. This brief walk has done its work. It has grounded you in the night, reminded you of winter's presence, and sharpened the comfort waiting inside. You reach the door and pause for a moment, listening. The house is quiet, but not asleep. The fire still burns. The evening still holds. When you step inside once more, the cold loosens its hold again, retreating without resistance. The night outside remains, but it no longer presses against you. And as the door closes softly behind you, the world narrows once more, guiding you gently toward rest. Now you're returning home as the household settles. You step back inside, and the night releases you once again. The door closes softly behind you, shutting out the winter air and restoring the familiar warmth of the house. The fire continues to glow steadily in the hearth, unchanged by your brief absence, as though it has been holding the room in quiet readiness. Heat settles around you slowly, easing the last traces of cold from your hands and face. The house feels calmer now than before. Something subtle has shifted while you were outside. The energy that once carried conversation and gentle activity has softened further, settling into a deeper stillness. The evening has crossed a threshold, moving from togetherness into rest. Coats are hung once more. Boots are set aside neatly. Movements are slower now, guided more by habit than thought. The household has entered the final rhythm of the day, one shaped by repetition and familiarity. You move back into the parlour, where the fire's glow remains the quiet centre of the room. Chairs sit where they were left, angled inward, still holding the warmth of those who occupied them earlier. Candles burn lower now, their flames smaller but steady, casting a softer light that seems to blur the edges of everything it touches. The clock on the mantel continues its gentle ticking, marking time without urgency. The sound feels almost comforting, a reminder that the night is progressing exactly as it should. Victorian homes settle early in winter. Without electric light to extend the evening, the body naturally responds to darkness and warmth. Drowsiness arrives gently, without resistance. Rest is not postponed. It is welcomed. You notice the small signs that the household is preparing for sleep. A shawl is folded and placed carefully on the back of a chair. A book left open earlier is closed and returned to the shelf. A candle is extinguished, its wick glowing briefly before fading into darkness. Each action is deliberate, quiet, respectful of the calm that now fills the space. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is delayed unnecessarily. This balance reflects a deep understanding of routine. Victorian domestic life values structure, especially in winter. Predictable evenings provide reassurance against the uncertainty of cold, illness, and long nights. Settling the household is as important as lighting the fire earlier in the day. You remain seated for a time, simply observing. There is no expectation that you participate actively. Presence is enough. The house does not demand attention, it offers containment. The fire shifts softly, embers settling deeper into the grate. Someone rises briefly to adjust it, adding just enough fuel to ensure it will last through the night. The action is performed with care, informed by experience rather than instruction. Managing a fire overnight is essential. Letting it burn too hot wastes fuel. Letting it fade too far risks losing warmth entirely. Balance is everything, especially during winter. As the fire is tended, the room seems to respond, growing quieter still. The flames glow steadily, no longer flickering as much. The heat they produce feels even, reliable. You feel this steadiness mirrored in your own body. Breathing slows. Muscles loosen further. The weight of the day fades completely. Conversation has nearly ceased now. Any remaining words are spoken softly, often unnecessary. Glances and small gesture communicate everything that needs to be said. The household understands itself well. Victorian families often share sleeping spaces or sleep in rooms close together. Bedrooms are colder than the parlour, making the transition to sleep gradual. The warmth of the sitting room lingers on skin and clothing, carrying comfort into the night. You become aware of how the house itself prepares for rest. Curtains are drawn fully across windows, thick fabric sealing out drafts and darkness alike. Doors between rooms are closed gently, containing warmth where it is needed most. The architecture of the home supports this rhythm. Narrow hallways reduce heat loss. Smaller rooms retain warmth more easily. The house feels purposeful, shaped by generations of adaptation to winter life. You rise slowly, stretching gently, and follow as the household begins to disperse. Each person moves toward rest in their own way. Unspoken agreement guiding the flow. The staircase creaks softly beneath careful footsteps. This sound is familiar, expected. Old houses speak quietly, acknowledging movement without protest. Upstairs, the air is cooler, though not uncomfortably so. Warmth from below rises gradually, softening the chill. Candles provide just enough light to guide the way, their glow reflected faintly in framed pictures lining the walls. These pictures depict family members, landscapes, moments preserved in stillness. They serve as reminders of continuity, of lives lived before and alongside the present. Bedrooms are simple and practical. Furniture is minimal. Beds are layered with blankets and quilts, each added for warmth rather than decoration. Hot bricks or warmed stones may be placed beneath covers, a common Victorian practice to fend off the cold. You enter a quiet room and pause for a moment, allowing the calm to settle fully. The space feels personal but unadorned. It is designed for rest, not activity. As you prepare for sleep, you reflect briefly on how Victorian nights differ from modern ones. Without constant noise or light, rest arrives naturally. The body responds to cues embedded in the environment: darkness, warmth, quiet. The sounds of the house fade further. Footsteps grow rare. doors close softly. The fire below continues its steady work, though its sound barely reaches this far now. Outside, winter remains unchanged. Snow continues to fall lightly. The night holds firm. Inside, the household rests together, each person carried gently towards sleep. You settle beneath blankets, feeling their weight provide reassurance. Heavy bedding is common in Victorian homes, offering both warmth and a sense of containment. The body relaxes under this pressure, comforted by its presence. Breathing slows naturally. The mind drifts without effort. Thoughts soften, no longer clinging to form or direction. The clock continues to mark time somewhere below, its sound faint but steady. It anchors the night, reminding you that even as sleep approaches, the world remains ordered and secure. This settling of the household is not dramatic. It is quiet, practiced, deeply reassuring. It reflects generations of living in harmony with winter's demands. As the final candle is extinguished, darkness fills the room gently, without fear. The absence of light feels natural, expected. The body recognizes it as an invitation. You lie still, aware only of warmth, quiet, and the distant presence of the fire. The house holds you, steady and unchanged. Christmas Eve moves toward its deepest hours now, not with anticipation, but with peace. And as the household settles fully into rest, the night deepens around you, guiding you effortlessly towards sleep. The night has fully claimed the world now. Deep outside the walls of the house, winter stretches on in silence, snow continuing its quiet descent, covering streets, rooftops, and paths in soft, unbroken white. Inside, the household rests, wrapped in layers of warmth and stillness. The fire remains alive below, burning steadily in the hearth, its presence felt even when unseen. You are aware of it without hearing it directly. The warmth it provides rises slowly through the house, lingering in the air, settling into walls and floors, carrying comfort upward into every room. It is not a roaring heat, but a patient one, the kind that lasts, the kind that understands the length of the night. Victorian winter nights are long. Darkness arrives early and departs slowly, giving the hours a different weight. Time feels broader here, less compressed. There is no urgency to reach morning. The night is allowed to unfold at its own pace. You lie quietly, breathing slow and even. The day now, fully behind you. The warmth of blankets surrounds you, heavy enough to feel secure, light enough to allow ease. This weight is intentional. Victorian bedding is designed not just for warmth, but for reassurance, to remind the body it is held. The house itself seems to breathe gently. Wood settles as temperatures shift. The faintest creaks echo and fade. These sounds are not interruptions. They are familiar, almost comforting, reminders that the structure around you is alive in its own way, responding naturally to the cold beyond its walls. Outside, the world is hushed. Snow absorbs sound completely, leaving the night wrapped in a kind of silence that feels deliberate rather than empty. Even distant noises soften before reaching the house. The city, if nearby, sleeps. The countryside, if farther out, rests even deeper. In Victorian England, this quiet is expected. Darkness governs behaviour. Night belongs to rest, not activity. Without electric light to blur boundaries, people accept the rhythm of day and night as something to move with, not against. Your thoughts drift gently, unstructured. They do not settle on plans or concerns. Instead, they wander through impressions of the evening. the warmth of the parlour, the steady glow of candles, the simple comfort of shared supper, the sound of snow beneath your boots during the brief walk outside. These memories do not demand attention. They pass through your mind softly, like reflections on water, leaving calm behind them. The fire continues its quiet work below. Its embers glow steadily, protected by ash, releasing warmth slowly into the night. Someone ensured it was banked properly, a skill learned over many winters. This careful tending allows the fire to last until morning, guarding against the deepest cold of the night. Fire is central to Victorian winter life. It is more than heat. It is security. It is continuity. Families organize their evenings around it, their movement shaped by its presence. Even now, as you rest, it remains the heart of the home. You imagine the hearth as it is now, embers glowing softly, iron grate warm to the touch, faint traces of smoke rising gently up the chimney. The fire does not need attention anymore. It has been trusted to carry the household through the darkest hours. The clock downstairs continues to mark time. Its ticking is faint, distant, almost imperceptible now. Yet it remains steady, unchanged by sleep or silence. It anchors the night, reminding the house that time moves forward, even when nothing seems to happen. This awareness brings comfort rather than restlessness. Victorian nights often include moments of wakefulness. People accept this naturally. There is no pressure to sleep immediately or deeply. Rest comes in layers, dozing, dreaming, waking briefly, then drifting again. You allow this gentle rhythm to guide you. The body relaxes fully now. Muscles release what little tension remains. Breathing deepens, slowing even further. The cold beyond the walls feels distant, irrelevant. The house holds its warmth well. Outside, snow continues to fall. It gathers quietly on window ledges, on the edges of roofs, on the ground below. By morning, the world will look different, softened, renewed. For now, it simply accumulates, patient and unobserved. Christmas Eve moves through its final hours. Tomorrow will bring light, movement, and celebration. But tonight belongs to stillness. Victorian culture places deep value on this pause, this space between anticipation and fulfillment. It allows reflection, gratitude, and rest to settle fully. You sense this pause deeply now. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to prepare. The evening has completed itself naturally, without needing a clear ending. It has faded gently into night. Your mind drifts again, this time toward the broader world of Victorian life. You think of countless other homes, much like this one, resting quietly across towns and villages. Fires burning low, families sleeping beneath layered blankets, snow falling everywhere, connecting these separate spaces into one shared winter night. Despite differences in wealth or circumstance, winter equalizes experience in many ways. Cold affects everyone. Darkness shapes all lives. Warmth, when found, is deeply appreciated. Christmas in this era emphasizes this shared humanity. It encourages kindness, generosity, and awareness of others. Even now, as you rest, these values linger softly in the background of the night. Your thoughts begin to lose definition. They stretch out, becoming less precise, more impressionistic. Images blur gently. Sensations soften. The edges of awareness grow indistinct. This is the natural approach of sleep. You do not resist it. There's no need to hold on to the moment. The night is doing its work, guiding you inward. The house remains steady around you. Walls retain warmth. floors radiate quiet comfort. The fire continues to burn unseen, but felt. The clock ticks on. Outside, the world remains unchanged, wrapped in snow and darkness. Nothing threatens, nothing interrupts. You sink deeper into the bed, blankets rising slightly with each breath. The weight feels reassuring, grounding. Your body recognizes this position, this environment, as safe. Victorian sleep is shaped by environment rather than intention. Darkness signals rest. Warmth encourages stillness. Quiet allows the mind to slow. Everything around you supports sleep without instruction. Your breathing evens further, becoming slow and rhythmic. The mind drifts away from narrative, from structure. Thoughts become fragments, then sensations, then simply rest. The long winter night stretches ahead, but it no longer feels long. It feels expansive, generous. Time opens rather than presses. Somewhere below, the fire shifts slightly as embers settle. The sound, if it reaches you at all, is distant and soothing. It blends into the fabric of the night. Christmas Eve continues quietly toward dawn. Morning will arrive in its own time, bringing pale light through frost-covered windows, the promise of celebration and warmth renewed. But that belongs to later. For now, the night holds everything gently. You rest within it, carried by warmth, silence, and the steady presence of the hearth. The house remains unchanged. The fire burns on, and the long winter night unfolds softly around you, allowing sleep to arrive without effort, without demand, exactly when it is ready. As the fire continues to glow and the night stretches quietly on, you can rest here as long as you like. The story has ended, but the warmth remains. Sleep well and enjoy the gentle sound of the fire. Good night.